Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Blizzard just released patch 303 for Diablo 4, and while this is technically a bug fix update, there are actually some pretty important changes in here that affect dungeons, war plans, strongholds, bosses, builds, and even some farming methods that players were abusing. This patch includes fixes for progression blockers, exploit prevention, class bugs, and fixes to several problems tied to new expansion system. And honestly, some of these fixes are a much bigger deal than they might seem at first glance. So let's get into it. Starting with quests and dungeons, Blizzard fixed an issue where tracking indicators would disappear during the Fortune's Full quest if you teleported away and then came back. This probably sounds minor, but these kinds of bugs are extremely frustrating because they make players think the quest is broken entirely. They also fixed an issue with a bridge that would completely disappear during the death quest, and again, this is another progression blocker, and honestly, there were quite a few of those in this patch. Another important fix involves the Sigil of Tal Rasha during the Initiate quest, because apparently if players interacted with the Sigil before the objective properly updated, it could completely block progression. Next up, Blizzard fixed invisible siege towers during the Smother Flame quest, and this one honestly sounds hilarious and terrible at the same time. Imagine trying to fight around giant invisible structures. One of the bigger fixes in this section involves the Beast of Thorns during a Devil in the Garden. The boss could apparently leap into an unreachable location, completely preventing players from finishing the encounter. There's also a pretty interesting adjustment to the Nahantu side quest called Scales of History, because previously players could get stuck because it required elixirs, which after Lord of Hatred in Season 13 became unobtainable. So Blizzard has removed the elixir requirement entirely. Blizzard also fixed multiple issues tied to the Cosmic Archives Stronghold, because apparently progression could break if enemies were killed too far away from where the encounter originally started. There was another issue where leaving the Stronghold for too long could also block progression when returning later. So there was a couple issues there, but they've been fixed. Another important dungeon fix involves the Wretched Dive. And in this one, the boss arena fog wall could apparently spawn too early and completely prevent dungeon progression. Now, we're going to move on to the war plan fixes, which are honestly the most important part of the patch. First up, Blizzard fixed an issue where the Amalgam of Rage boss could be infinitely summoned in Nightmare dungeons using certain warplan combinations. Now, obviously, infinite boss summons are never intended, and players were almost certainly abusing this for loot, XP, materials, and progression farming. Whenever infinite spawning methods exist in Diablo, the community discovers them almost immediately. So Blizzard shutting this down was inevitable. But the even bigger fix is the infinite Goblin spawn exploit. Blizzard confirmed that a specific warplan node could create endless treasure Goblin spawns, and honestly this was probably one of the most broken farming exploits introduced recently. Treasure Goblins are tied to massive loot generation, so infinite Goblins basically means infinite rewards if left unchecked. Another warplan fix addressed the Duriel invasion modifier. This modifier replaces the Blood Maiden with Duriel, but apparently players were not receiving Grim Favors after defeating him. So now players should finally get proper rewards when running this modifier. There was also a multiplayer issue involving the Corran's Soul and Corran's Flesh Work Plan modifiers. If different party members had both active during a pit run, the Artificer's obelisk at the end could fail to spawn entirely, so thankfully, party-based progression should now function correctly. Moving on into miscellaneous fixes, Blizzard addressed an issue where the same aspect could be transfigured into an item twice, so that loophole is gone now. They also fixed an issue where players could equip multiple unique charms in certain situations, so Blizzard definitely wanted this fixed quickly. And then we have probably the funniest fix in the patch, because barbarians could apparently continuously shrink and regrow while using the Sescheron's Fury Talisman set. That must have looked absolutely hilarious in game. Blizzard also fixed an issue where Dirge of Odium could remove more than 10% maximum wrath per second. There was also an invisible wall fix near Temis. It's a simple quality of life improvement here, nothing too exciting, but invisible walls are always annoying. And finally, for the expansion section, Blizzard mentions various stability, performance, visual, and text improvements. This is basically the standard cleanup category, but honestly, these often matter more than players realize. Now let's move into the base game fixes because there are actually some important changes here too. First up, Blizzard fixed an issue where Merle's bag of obols dropped fewer obols than intended on higher tournament difficulties. And this is actually a nice fix because players pushing harder content should absolutely be receiving proper scaling rewards. Another important fix involves Artificer's favor progression because previously players would not gain rank progress when completing tower tiers below their highest completed tier. And that's pretty punishing. So that's a big quality of life improvement for endgame grinding. Also, Barbarian players received a fix for Lunging Strike with the Whirling enhancement because apparently Dust Devils would fail to spawn if enemies were too close to the player. Sorcerers also got a small but an important fix because the Ball Lightning tooltip now properly shows that it is a core skill, so this is mainly a UA clarity update. There's also a major fix for the Tormented Echo of Duriel encounter because the encroaching death debuff could persist even after dying and respawning, so this should make Duriel encounters much less frustrating now. And finally, Blizzard fixed the chromatic aberration setting not being toggleable. So if you wanted a visual option enabled and you couldn't turn it on before, it should now work properly. Overall, patch 303 is definitely more of a cleanup and stabilization update rather than a content-heavy patch, but honestly, there are some pretty decent fixes here. The biggest changes are definitely the war plan exploit removals, especially the infinite goblin spawns and the infinite boss summoning. Those were almost certainly affecting progression balance and loot generation across the game. Beyond that, the large number of progression blocker fixes is a huge win for overall game stability. Nothing kills momentum faster in an ARPG than getting stuck because a quest, dungeon, or a boss encounter breaks unexpectedly. And thankfully, Blizzard seems focused right now on cleaning up a lot of those issues. So let me know in the comments, did you run into any of these bugs yourself? Were you farming the Goblin exploit before it got patched? What do you think Blizzard should prioritize next? If this breakdown helped you out, make sure to leave a like, subscribe for more gaming content, and I'll see you all in the next one. I appreciate you.